Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi, Maseches CHULLIN, Daf Kuf Daled. We begin a brand new Perek Al Basar. So this is perhaps a bit more relevant to us on a daily basis. We spoke about Gid Anosh, Erev Ben Achai. Here we speak about actual Basar B'chalav, questions which we encounter pretty often. So it says the Mishnah, Kol HaBasar Asra Lavashal B'chalav, all types of meat. Now when we speak about all, what are we trying to include? Says Rashi, although the pasuk specifies gedi, right? So the underlying pasuk of today's parak is Lo yisavashel gedi b'chaliv imay. One should not cook the meat of a gedi, of a goat, with the milk of its mother. Okay, so that's the header, that's the banner to the Isser of Basar B'chalav. And by the way, Minat Torah, the Isser of consuming a mix of milk and meat is only when it was actually cooked together. There's a separate Isser actually for cooking it together. One is you're not allowed to cook, and secondly, you're not allowed to eat that cooked material. However, with the Rabbanan, we take it a step further, so that we don't come to the Isser D'Oraisa, just as you can't consume actual milk and meat cooked together, you can't consume them even separately. If it's in the same sitting, the same meal, or very close to each other, or consuming them together, or even uncooked, right? So these are all the Rabbanan. Now, the question is, what material, what type of meat may one not consume with milk? Kol HaBasar. Says Rashi, once again, although the pasuk specifies gedi, but we apply it to not only behema, which are the more domesticated types, even to chaya, the less domesticated animal, a deer, etc., va'oif, or even fowl, like chicken. And we'll see later, this is actually a machlekes. Some say it's asur actually midaraisa, and some say chaya and oif is only midarabbanan, and that's how we paskin. Okay, back to the Mishnah. Kol HaBasar, all types of meat. Asur lavashal b'chalav. One may not cook these meats with milk, except chutz mibasar dag mechagam, except for fish or grasshoppers. These does not qualify as meat, and may be cooked even chatchila with milk. Just as we don't eat these materials together, v'asar lahalois, im hagvin ala shulchan, one may not place meat together with cheese on the table, for concern that one may inadvertently eat them together. Chutz, except mibasar dag mechagav, except for fish and grasshoppers, where even eating them together with milk is not an issue. Certainly not serving them. We turn to the next page. The same equation applies to halachos of vows of nedarim. A person makes a vow, I'm going to refrain from basar. Okay, which material is covered by that vow? Hanoidim and basar. A person makes a neder to refrain from basar. Rashi explains that when it comes to nedarim, it's all about common, phraseology. B'nedarim halech achar loshen b'nei adam. We follow the way people speak. That's what determines the parameter of nedarim. And typically, the term basar, people use it to refer to any type of meat except for fish and grasshoppers. And therefore, when a person refrains from basar, mutar b'basar dog b'chagam, he can partake in fish and grasshoppers. Says the Gemara. Ha'oif asur midaraisa. The Mishnah began by saying all basar, including oif, including fowl, chicken, may not be mixed with milk. It would seem that it's on the same level as behema meat, which means it's asur midaraisa. That's not going like Rabbi Akiva, who holds that anything other than behema, like the meat of chaya, meat of oif, is only asur midarabbanan with milk. Ha'oif asur midaraisa. So the beginning of the Mishnah, which indicates that oif cannot be mixed with milk minat Torah kilman. Who's speaking? The like Rabbi Akiva. It's not like Rabbi Akiva, because according to him, it's not deraisa, it's only midarabbanan. The Rabbi Akiva, according to Rabbi Akiva, Amai tells us chaya v'oif, mixing chaya meat and oif meat with milk is eina minat Torah. It's not prohibited minat Torah, only midarabbanan. Okay, so the start of the Mishnah seems to be going like the shita of the Chachamim, that any meat is asur minat Torah. Okay, ema seifa. Let's move on to the last part of the Mishnah, by nedarim, where it seems like we are going with Rabbi Akiva. like a Akiva's opinion pertaining to these matters of defining phraseology regarding the darim. Amos Seifa. So we learned in the Seifa, the Mishnah concludes, Anoider min abasar. He makes a nether to keep away from basar. Mutar b'basar darim chagag. No problem eating fish or grasshoppers. But fowl, chicken, ha'if is asr. Why? Because people relate to chicken as basar. Ha'if asr. Asr on the Rabbi Akiva. Now this follows Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Why? The Amari tells us, Kal mili de mimlich alei shliach. So the boss, sent his butler to the market, go get me some meat. Now, imagine the butler shows up at the supermarket. He only finds, cantaloupes. Would he go back and call, would he pick up the phone and call his boss, hey, look, there's no meat, this cantaloupe? Of course not. I asked you for meat. What does cantaloupes have to do? But he would consult with him if he only finds chicken. Oh, what does that tell us about the relation between chicken and meat? They're pretty close relatives. They're cousins. It's sort of a subset of meat. Oh, says Rabbi Akiva. That indicates to us that in fact chicken can be covered by the meat umbrella in matters of nadarim. That's the criterion. We look at how a shliach would deal with this matter. Kol mili, any item, any material, the mimlach alei shliach, which would prompt the shliach to consult with his boss whether or not to buy it in exchange, in the absence of the original material. Bar, meaning he tells us that this is somewhat related. It's considered the same min. The snan, as we have in the Mishnah. A person makes a nether to refrain from greenery, from vegetables. What about gourds, squash? It's somewhere in between, right? Mutar b'dluin, you can have diluin, because technically that's not what yorok means. Rabbi Akiva Oiser says no. Why? Amr Rabbi Akiva says, Chacham asked Rabbi Akiva, why are you including the diluim in the yorok family? Picture this: a person sends out his helper to do some shopping. Kach lona yorok, get me a bag of yorok, of vegetables. Shows up, they're out of vegetables. He calls his boss, he says, look, I only have squash. Well, Emery comes back and tells him, I only found diluim. Apparently diluim is not yorok. Otherwise you wouldn't have to consult with him. Hamar Lanza, Rabbi Akiva responds, just the opposite. Kain Adavar, exactly as such. That's exactly my proof that it's connected. Would he go back and tell him, well, I only found beans instead of lettuce? Of course not. The reason why he's asking him about the squash is because it's, it's second best to lettuce. It's somewhat related. It's somewhat in the vegetable family. Ella, rather, diluin b'chlal yorok. Diluin is somewhat covered by the yorok umbrella. Ven kitnus b'chlal yorok, but kitnus is not. So back to our story. Made a nether from basar. He cannot eat oif. Why? Apparently because oif is somewhat related. If you would send a shliach to find him basar, he would turn back and say, look, I only found oif. Apparently there's some connection. And Nedarim follows the Loshem B'nai Adam. So we're going like Rabbi Akiva. The last part of the mission is following Rabbi Akiva's approach. That the very fact that the shliach bothers to consult and query about buying chicken instead of meat indicates that it is covered by the meat category. It's a subset of meat. Okay, that's not like the Rabbanon. The Rabbanon would not consider it connected because chicken is chicken, as meat is meat. So Reisha Rabbanon, the first part of the Mishnah, that indicates to us that in matters of basar v'chalav, chicken is considered. That's Reisha, that's like the Rabbanon. It's also midaraisa with chalav. V'sefer Rabbi Akiva, in the second part of the Mishnah, that chicken is considered like basar regarding the Dharma. That's only like Rabbi Akiva. So in the same Mishnah we have two shitas. A little bit strange. Amar Rav Yosef, no. These aren't two people speaking. It's Rebbe here, Rabbi Danasi, who compiled the Mishnayos. Well, he picked and chose. In matters of basar b'chalav, he adopted the Chachamim's opinion. In matters of an Adarim, he adopted Rabbi Akiva's opinion. It's not contradictory. They can work together. Rebbe. V'nasavlo, he angled his Mishnah, Ali, but the Tanai, based on these two opinions. In matters of Nadarim, he adopted Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Chicken and meat are synonymous. So like Rabbi Akiva, whereas b'basar b'chalav, matters of basar b'chalav, so like Rabban, he adopted the Rabbanon. That chicken, as meat, is asur with milk. Midaris. Rav has a different approach. Kula Rabbi Akiva. Truly, the whole mission is Rabbi Akiva. So the second part is good. But what about the first part? The Mishnah means like this. No, not that chicken and meat on the same level. Regarding basar b'chalav. Kol basar asur l'vashel b'chalav. You shouldn't cook any meat with milk. For different reasons. Mayhan some midivrei Torah based on a Torah prohibition, like real meat. Mayhan midivrei seifim. Others, like chicken, it's only midrabbanan. So that's two categories. We have a third category, chutzim b'sar dagim machagam, except for fish and grasshoppers, which are a non-issue at all. She'ena, which are not an issue, loy midivrei Torah, but then we say not min Torah, not midrabbanan. The Mishnah continues, just like we don't cook them together, but also you shouldn't serve them together, because you may eat them. And this pertains even to the chicken. Amar Rav Yosef, Shema no, we can learn from here, Basa oif b'chalav d'oraisa. Unlike Rav Ashi a minute ago, he says no, we see from the Mishnah that chicken with milk is min Torah. Otherwise, if it's only the Rabbana, the Rabbana never make a double gezerah. Right? They prohibit something so you don't come to d'oraisa. One step away, but not two steps away. You can't do this because of that, and you can't do that because... So we learn in this Mishnah that chicken with milk is min Torah, to be eaten together, which explains why you shouldn't even serve them together, because you may come to eat them together. These are the Rabbanon, because if you're going to tell me that eating them together is only the Rabbanon, because you might come to eat milk with real meat, so this allowing the placement on the table is two steps away. We never do that. Achil gufat gzeira. So even eating them together, the chicken and the milk is only gzeira, because it might come to Issa d'oraisa, Banan nigzar halah atu achila. Now we're going to stretch it, let's take it a step further. Disallow placing them on the table, just in case you might eat them, and if you eat them, you might eat the other one. That's too far, we don't do that. Now apparently others disagree, others hold that even by the Rabbanon this would make sense, because, Rashi and Amud Beis says putting it on the table is like eating it. Once it's on the table, you eat it. So it's not necessarily considered two steps. But according to Rav Yosef, it is. How do we know that in fact we don't enact a double gzera? It's not. Listen to this Mishnah. Chalas chutz la'aretz. So in Eretz Yisrael, one is required to separate the dough, piece of dough, and give it to the kohen. It's min Torah. In chutz la'aretz, outside, it's only in the Rabbanon. We do it with the Rabbanon. And since its challah status is only the Rabbanon, on the one hand, we don't allow a non-kohen to eat it. It's meant for a kohen, right? But we have some leniencies. We turn to Talmud Beis. Necheles im hazar ala shulchan. You can eat it together on the same table with a non-kohen, without concern that he might reach out and eat it, because the whole entity is only the Rabbanon. Therefore, we don't take it a step further and disallow serving it on the table together. When it tells kohen she'irtz, and likewise, when you give it to a kohen, you don't have to be meticulous about investigating the kohen's lineage and whatever. And Rashi says it can even be an Amaretz, right? Or a person who's not Baki and guarding it in Tahara. So you have to make sure it's a kohen, but it doesn't have to be top notch. Okay, so that's where Yesus proved that by the Rabbanans we never take it two steps. We never make a double gzera from the fact that you can place it on the table together with the zara. Amalei Abai responds to him. You can't really prove much from there. Because remember, we're speaking in Chutz La'aretz, where there is no, where chala min HaTorah is not found. Now, if bishleima I ashminan chalas Chutz La'aretz ba'aretz, truly, if suppose the halacha would relate to, discussion would relate to eating challah of Chutz La'aretz, which was now imported into Eretz Yisrael, where you have the challah min HaTorah in Eretz Yisrael. And then the point would be that the fact that the Mishnah allows you to place the challah of Chutz La'aretz on the table together with the non-kohen, despite a concern that you might do the same with challah of Eretz Yisrael, which is min HaTorah, and for allowing it, then you see that we don't stretch our gzeros. Enough that we say that this challah of Chutz La'aretz should not be given to a zara, but to prohibit placing it on the table, we're not concerned. That's already going too far. Even though there is a concern that if you do it on this challah, you might do it to a regular challah. Challah of Eretz Yisrael, if you put it on the table, the zara might eat it. So if we see that we're not concerned, so you see from there, we don't stretch our gzeros. Ella. But here we're speaking that is outside Eretz Yisrael. There is no challah min HaTorah in Chutz La'aretz. There is no. All you have is this type. Ella the Chutz La'aretz. But if you're outside Eretz Yisrael, mishum telekal migzerhu. Of course, you can put it on the table because there is no issa d'oraisa in the vicinity. There is no challah of Eretz Yisrael here. Mishum telekal migzerhu. Aval hacha. As opposed to the case of the basar b'chalav, I can truly understand why we would disallow even placement of chicken on the same table as cheese. It's not considered stretching the issur. So again, even though actually eating the chicken with cheese is only the rabbanon, I can understand why it still would not even allow you to put it on the table. Because if we're going to put this on the table with the cheese, next time we'll put the real meat on the. He'll serve his chicken with he'll serve his meat. But here, in the case of table placement, if you allow him to serve his chicken and his cheese on the same table, next thing you know, he's putting on his meat with his cheese, which can lead him to eat his real meat with his cheese together, which is not min HaTorah. So basically, what Abai is saying is that even if the Mishnah is going with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva that technically eating the chicken with the cheese, with the milk is midrabanan, I could still understand why you can't put it on the table together. It's not considered stretching the gzeros, because one thing quickly leads to the next and can come to Issa Derais. Maskal Rav Sheshes. Ask Rav Sheshes, what do you mean? It is a stretch. It is going very far. It is enacting a double gzera because, fine, you're concerned about putting cheese with his chicken, because next thing you know, his meat is up there, and what happens then? What's the worst thing that happens? So he ate his meat with his chicken. He didn't cook them together. That in itself is the rabbanon. As we explained before, only meat and milk actually cooked together poses a deraisa issue. So again, this is a very big stretch. Even if he does have his real meat and his chicken together, it's cold and cold, it's not cooked together, it's only the rabbanon. It might lead to the raisa. They make it cooked together on the table, have like a hot pot sitting on the table. He might serve them in a hot pot. Okay, but a hot pot is a serving dish, which is safe. Ultimately, that's a klisheni. It's a second generation pot. That's not the original pot cooking on the fire. A klisheni, the serving container, which the original food was poured into from the original pot, is only a klisheni. Klisheni doesn't have the power of cooking. Yeah, the concern is he might actually serve his meat and his milk together in the ilfas rishon, the actual original pot. So even though it's off the flame, but it has such intense heat that if you put the milk and the meat inside there, they'll cook together. And that's really Isur D'Oraisa. So that explains why he shouldn't be placing any sort of meat, chicken on his table with his milchas, because ultimately might come to Isur D'Oraisa. Okay, so in summation, Min HaTorah, basar b'chalav, is when they're cooked together and then eaten. Midrabanan, however, even if they're eaten separately, close proximity would be asur. How much separation do we need? We'll see in the upcoming Gemaras, of course. Now, what type of meat are we talking? According to Rishitas Chachamim, all types, behema chayav ha'oif, except for dagim chagav, according to Rekiva, only behema is min HaTorah, chayav ha'oif is midrabanan. Just as you don't eat them together, you don't even put them on the table together, because it could come to Isur D'Oraisa. Continues the mission. Ha'oif oila imagvin ala shulchan. Oh, back to this topic. So according to Beis Shammai, we don't go that far. We don't disallow placement of chicken, which is merely midrabanan. We can't. There's no issue of putting it on the table with the cheese. They hold that it's a stretch to go that far. Ha'oif oila magvin ala shulchan ve'en nechal. According to Beis Shammai, you don't eat your chicken with your cheese, but you can put them both together on the table at the same time. Beis Hillel was strict. Just as you don't eat them together, you don't put them together on the same table. Here we go. This is one of those exceptional reverse machlekes. Typically, Beis Shammai are more strict. The Sfarim explained that Beis Shammai were rooted in Midas Hadin of Hashem, more strict approach to things, more literal, more defined. So they tended to be more strict in matters of Torah. That was their perception. That was their chelik of Torah. Whereas Beis Hillel were more lenient. Midas HaChesed, more lenient approach, more expansive approach. But here we have an exception to that rule. Amar Beis Zu. This is one of those cases that you have Mikulei Beis Shammai, where Beis Shammai are the ones that are lenient. You can put the chicken on the table. Mechor Beis Hillel. Beis Hillel are the ones that are machmer. Now it would seem that Rabbi Yossi is merely repeating what the Tanna Kamma already said. The more we'll deal with that. Now, Beis Shulchan Amru, when we're preventing placement on tables, what kind of table are we talking about? Just a serving table, a counter, or the actual dining room table? Beis Shulchan Amru, B'Shulchan Shoichan Olav, on the table where you're eating. Aval Shulchan Shesayder Olav Zatafshel, but it's a matter of just placing them on the serving table on the side, on the counter. That's not an issue, because you're not eating there anyways. Nice and Zebit Zatzeh, you could place one item beside the other, without concern of combining them. Now, Rabbi Yossi Anu Tanna Kamma. All Rabbi Yossi said was, hey, this is one of those exceptional, reverse machlekes. Isn't he just repeating what the Tanna Kamma said? Perhaps there is a halachic difference, whether you're allowed to eat them together. The chicken and the meat and the cheese. The Gomer Tanna Kamma, because on the one hand Tanna Kamma says ba'alo kamiflagid, machlekes is only regarding serving them. But there's no question you can't eat them together. It's asur. Right? At least with the Rabbanan, it's also. But Rabbi Yossi says, no. Achila gufa, even eating chicken with cheese is mikule Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai would be makel. You allowed to do that? Beis Hillel would not allow it. You can't say that. Vatanya or Vatanan, we have a Mishnah Mesechas Ediyos, where Rabbi Yossi spells out that according to all opinions, you can't eat them together. The question is just putting them on the table together for two customers, for two eaters that are going to eat it separately. Vatanan, Rabbi Yossi, there are a total of 6 things. So this is in addition to many others that are discussed here. Rabbi Yossi says these 6 are examples of reversals. Mikulei Beis Shammai, Mechor Beis Hillel, and he explains himself. And the following is one of these 6: the chicken and the milk. Oif oila magvin ala shulchan nechal. The Beis Shammai, when Beis Shammai, you can place the oif with the gvina, but you can eat them together. So you see clearly, even according to Beis Shammai, you can't eat them together. Beis Hillel, you can't eat them, you can't place them together either. So again, what's the redundancy about? What's Rabbi Yossi adding to the Tanna Kamma? Allah Kamash, the point of the Mishnah is to tell you. We're not introducing any new information. It's just to teach you. Give credit when credit is due. Give credit to the source. Rabbi Yossi was the one. He was the source of this point. So initially we didn't quote him by name, we just presented the halacha. And then we came back and says, look, this was actually Rabbi Yossi, who's the source of this information. Elo Kamash, when the Mishnah is teaching us, Man Tanakama, who's the Tanakama? Who is the source for the information in the Tanakama? It's Rabbi Yossi. To teach us a lesson that you meant to quote your source. Give credit to your source. Rabbi Yossi. When one relates something and credits its source, maybe Gulul Olam, he brings about salvation to the world. Look, if a person has his chelik in Torah, which has to be expounded upon, has to be transmitted, revealed, and when you're relating that halacha and attributing it to the name goes into the halacha. It's one package. The person and his teaching is one thing. And that brings it to fruition, brings it to completion. And to the ultimate, redemption, completion of tikkun of the world. Shenemar v'atoymer Esther lamelech b'shem Mordechai, Esther Hamalka, relayed the information, the plot against Achashverosh, and she related it in the name of of Mordechai. She gave him the credit, and that ultimately helped him gain favor in Achashverosh's eyes, which triggered his, ascent to high position, and etc., and brought about facilitated the Neis and the Gula. Tana, Agra, that was his name. He taught us. He was Chamor to Rabbi Abba, the father-in-law of Rabbi Abba. Some say his name is actually Yisachar. Agra is, in Aramaic, reward. Agra, right? So Yisachar, Schar. So it's Aramaic for Yisachar. In any case, he teaches us like this: that although you meant to have, proper separation, proper gap between milk and meat and vice versa, but when it comes to chicken, which is only midrabanan, or according to others, it's not as fibrous, not as sticky. You can be a bit lenient in terms of the separation process between itself and milk products. Oif ugvina, chicken, and cheese, nechol could be eaten ba'apikoren. Rashi says apikoren is lashon of hefker. It's a little bit of a leisureness, right? Can be a bit less meticulous. What does that mean? To what extent? Who Amarla? He presented and explained it as well. It means b'lei netil sedayim u'b'lei kinuach hapeh. Typically, you have to wash your hands in between, clean out the mouth. In this case, you don't need to do that. Rashi explains, as opposed to basar behema, real meat, where this procedure is required because the fiber gets stuck in his mouth and on his hands. Rav Yitzchak Breder of Misharshe, what happened to him? Ikla, he visited L'bei Rav Ashir, Rashi's home, and they served him as follows. Isolate gvina, they served him some cheese. Achal, he had it. Isolate bisr, they served him meat right afterwards. Achal, and he ate it. L'lei Moshe Yodu, without washing his hands in between. Honorless, they asked him, Otani agro chamod Rabbi Abba. Haven't we learned from agro? Oifel gvina nechol b'pikoren. Only this leniency only applies to chicken and cheese. Oifel gvina in, only that is allowed without washing. Basar or gvina loy. So unfortunately, explain. Apparently, he did clean his mouth, but he didn't wash his hands. How could you? It's basar or gvina. It requires washing. Amar Lucy says this whole washing requirement is only when it's dark. You can't see if there's any residue left on your hands. But if it's daytime and it's nice and clean, you're good without washing. Washing is not an absolute requirement. It's only at nighttime. It'll be mama, but it's during day. Daytime. Hachazina, I see. Rashi says, I see my hands are clean, there's nothing stuck, in which case, I can go along without washing. Okay, so we had another machlokes regarding placement of the oif with the gvina on the shulchan, which interestingly turned out to be a machlokes b'sham mesila in the reverse of their usual formula. B'sham is the one that are lenient, mesila machmer. All agree you can't eat them together, but according to B'sham you can place them together, according to mesila you can't, and that's how we paskin. Learned about how important that is, and about the cleansing process between the meat and the milk. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rav.